that Mussolini's fascism was a much more palatable version of fascism for the Anglo-Americans. I think
Yeah,
uh, I think Hitler was still a bit too crude and brutish for them. Uh, I
yeah.
think Italy was much more. I know, and also with the whole history with the Roman Empire and Renaissance and all that stuff, there's almost a romantic idea of it. And I think if Italy was a stronger country, even militarily and everything else, or if Italy did join the Allies, because it nearly happened, I think they would have been very easily adapting and supporting um, the fascist, uh, a fascist Italy, maybe even till today. Who knows?
For sure. I mean, look, no doubt the oligarchy preferred by far the Italian brand of fascism. Um, because the Italian brand was much more inclined towards the sort of pan-Europeanism that was then being promoted by people like Count Coudenhove Kalergi, who had a lot of allies, both with Mussolini directly, who supported this general mode of organizing society around these regional fascist regional blocks as a stepping stone ultimately towards broader world government, but that would be down the line because part of the program with this grouping that emerged that started circulating the pan Europa thinking. And Hjalmar was also a member. Hjalmar was much more, as Hitler's banker, was much more in alignment with the Mussolini brand of fascism. Hitler, being again a useful idiot, who read certain forgeries like the Okrana generated protocols of Zion.
Mm.
He believed that stuff. He was fervently into the Wagner occult mythos of blood and soil, Nordic gods. Like it was like a religion for this guy. And the fact that he was being fed a god complex, both from his handlers as well as from the people who he was like interfacing with, it really worked him into a frenzy. And so Hitler was more of like a Banderite type of renegade in that sense. He wouldn't just like Stefan Bandera wouldn't obey his handlers. Doesn't matter how powerful his handlers are, they had to put him in jail because he was too much of a renegade, right?
Mm.
From Ukraine. And kind of like that for Hitler too. At a certain point, he's like, I am I am the
I'm in
Heist
charge.
Master. I am the god, I'm the Britain can rule with me, but they can be my junior partners. I'm not gonna be their junior partners. They can control India. They can control a big chunk of Africa. They can have a big chunk of the Americas, but they're gonna be I'm gonna be leading, they're gonna follow. And some of the British nut jobs and oligarchs were happy to adapt to that new reality, and other ones were not. They were not willing to make such. They realized that they created a bit of a Frankenstein monster, and ultimately they had to put him down. Though it almost came at their own destruction. And that's ultimately one of the things that oligarchs tend to always do is they've got these very elegant models, right, of what they believe their clean new world order of Ubermenschen and transhumanism, or at the time it was called eugenics, religious orders were going to do, and it looked all clean on paper. But as soon as you put it into practice, things end up breaking, and they end up doing things that undermine their own existence all the time. So that's sort of what happened then. They had to oust their pro-Nazi king. They had to oust Neville Chamberlain, the pro-Nazi prime minister. They had to do a massive shakeup. And Churchill, who was a little bit lesser known as a Nazi, was brought in to sort of be a troubleshooter. But even he couldn't do anything. He still had to beg Roosevelt to come and back him up. And Roosevelt kind of had the foresight to know that at some point this fascist machine was going to take over the world and was going to come to America's backyard. So the fight was going to happen at some point, which is why he brought in things like the Lend-Lease that started supplying China and Russia with a lot of the supplies that they needed to carry out their fight. Which had Roosevelt not done that, this is before even Pearl Harbor, there's no evidence to show that Russia or China would have been successful in fighting off the Japanese fascists or the Nazis in their own time. I'm talking Operation Barbarossa and other things.
Mhm.
So anyway, that was, yeah, it's a big part of the story that's often left out of the picture.